let me share something with you. So the quote for the day, and this is actually very important, so we use something called the Full Focus Planner, and this is actually from last quarter. It's a quarterly planner, and it's literally 90 days, and when you run out of 90 days, there's no more days, and I haven't put my new planner in yet. And it's the 5th, and I'm like, I haven't put the new planner in. So, I run the Larkin group, and we've been pretty successful, and I mean, other people have been more successful probably, but we've done it's interesting, our units are very different than the number of units that the mortgage office do. We do about 1,700 units, which is probably the equivalent of doing 3,000 for you guys. So, and that's over 17 years. And I'll share this quote, and then I want to give it some context. Everything gets harder if you start going on about how hard it is. And this is from Stephen Covey. It was actually from 927 from last week. So everything gets harder if you start going on and on about how hard it is, Stephen Covey. So I think this is one of the fundamental problems that we're having right now in the market is, so in 2000, I got in the business in 2005, and the first transaction I did was like $475,000. My dad and I went over, and there's a lady named Marilyn Arnold. It's so weird what that I would remember, but you remember these things. It was my first transaction. I got a real estate license on July 1st, and I quit my job in commercial development and leasing. I worked for the guys that did, that are doing still, but Sunset Corner, Pineview Plaza, Main Street Plaza, the Commerce Point now, where Chick-fil-A and Blaze and all those guys are, the new one, and Fort Pierce Industrial Park. And I quit that and got a real estate license and thought, how could I go wrong? It's real estate. And my dad, the market was like crazy right at the end of 05. And it was August, and we saw this home that was owned by Marilyn Arnold. She's an author, a local author that a lot of people, actually, she's older now, but a lot of people read her books. And we bought the home for $475, he did, and then he sold it for $535. So I picked up 2 commissions, and he cleared like 20 grand in the middle. And he's like, that was the easiest money I've ever made in my life. And then my second transaction was Jamie and Laurie Laws. And why do I remember that? Because it was like basically a glorified double wide at Quail Lake Estates. And those are the first 2 transactions. And that year I sold 6 homes. And then in 06, I sold like 20 units. And I was full-time, I hired an assistant. And then in 07, that was 07. And some of you were around for 07. And it got pretty murky, pretty quick. I mean, when GM and Ford and Chrysler are being bailed out by the government, you have a problem. And what happened was, over the next couple of years, like 07, 08, I'd sell like 30, 35 homes. This wasn't really that incredible. And in 2009, I made a massive shift in my business. I saw what was going on. It was like the first time I felt like I had some foresight.
And for 1 second though,
yeah.
How many agents sell 30 homes a year even today though?
Oh gosh, like 2%, 3% maybe.
So most agents still aren't, and he was still selling.
And it was me with one assistant. So we were
08.
making good money. And in 2009, I realized what was happening. And what was happening was the foreclosure market was happening, and banks were paying us like $65 to go do a BPO, what's called the broker price opinion. And like $65 to drive to the house, check it out from the outside, take a bunch of photos, go back to this insane form that was like a full mortgage application of a form. So complicated, which is essentially an appraisal form, and you do a CMA, a market analysis, and give it to the bank for $65. Like, worst money I've ever made. I might as well have been literally working at Taco Bell. But I realized, I was like, okay, if I do a lot of BPOs, I'm gonna get myself into the foreclosure game. And later that year, a guy named Sterling Martin gave me my first 2 REO assets. And people always hear REO, they never understand what that word is. But REO is like a foreclosure term. It's real estate owned, which is odd because what does real estate owned even mean?
It's what the bank owns.
Yeah, but it's basically real estate owned, and what it should say is by the bank. So I sold 2 properties for Fannie Mae. I remember exactly where they were. One was on Sunset Plateau off Sunset Boulevard, on Moonglow Place, and the other one was on 900 East down by Morningside Estates, where I grew up. And the floodgates opened. And in 2011, we sold 171 homes, and 149 of them were foreclosures. Wow. And it was myself and 2 assistants. You have to understand, like, that's a lot of real estate, right? 171 units, me and 2 assistants. And the funniest part was that Tamara Cooper, who was working for me at one point, she was probably 25 at the time. 2 different mornings I came in and I was like, man, you look really tired. And I went back office, and I came out and I said, "You didn't go home, did you?" And I realized she had not gone home. She stayed all night. Because the banks, it was all paperwork. It was all paper. And I could just, it was like a freaking mill. It was like a real estate transaction mill. We were just like running them out like a manufacturing line. She and a lady named Margie Carter. So fast forward, and here we are. All right. So Stephen Covey says, everything gets harder if you start going on and on about how hard it is. And I think that's one of the great challenges of every market, because 2 years ago, everybody was like, how can we get in our world? How can we get a transaction done? I mean, I offered 600 and the asking price was 575, and Scott offered 675, and he had cash, and I'm a first-time buyer. You guys remember? I do. You should. You should. You were trying to do loans for them. So isn't it funny how hard that was? And isn't it funny how now hard this is? It is hard. So I think there's a level of acknowledgement that has to happen. Does anybody know who the gigantic Sean Bradley is that is now paralyzed, the NBA player? Did you watch the special on Sunday? It's phenomenal. And you do not have to be LDS, but it was played between LDS General Conference, which I didn't really see, but my dad had me watch it. Sean Bradley was paralyzed last January, like 20 months ago. He lives here. He's 7'6", like one of 35 people in the world that's that tall. He was an absolute star out of Emory County and BYU and the NBA, like a star. He was. People don't remember that this dude was a freaking athlete.
Oh yeah,
and could move and could dribble, had a great jump shot, and played for the 76ers and then the Mavericks. So he was hit by a car over by basically Sunbrook, Country Lane, other side, and hit by a car on his bike on a January afternoon. He was paralyzed. And talk about your life being changed. And so he shared something that was interesting. The special was called Strangely Grateful. And Strangely Grateful is what it sounds like. They're like, we're really strangely grateful. His wife and his wife. And he said something really interesting. And then let's talk about how to convert these people right now. He's like, I get up every morning and I go, this sucks. And then that's it. That's all he gives himself. That's all he gets. And then he goes to work. And they show him like doing this physical therapy and like trying to catch a ball. Because at first they didn't know if he'd be paralyzed neck down. And he now has the use of his hands. And this is a guy who was in the NBA. And now he's like trying to like play catch, sitting in his wheelchair with Chantry with a ball. Catch a ball and send it back. And they're like, he is an athlete and he still trains like an athlete. So what I want to share with you is everything gets harder if you go on and on about it being hard. Do you catch the difference? But I think there's a healthy acknowledgement of, damn it, like, I looked at the MLS yesterday, pending transactions are down 42%. That's an actual data point. 42%.
In month over month,
yeah,
year over
year.
Year over year.
Well, week over week over week. I mean, since the peak. And so when you have that experience when you're like, am I crazy? And then someone validates you and you're like, oh, thank the Lord, I'm not crazy. You're not crazy if this feels harder. It is harder, right? And this is what I had to help my troops understand is this is harder right now. And but that's it. That's Sean Bradley. You get to name it. You get to name it. And it's what Tom Ferry calls the 5-minute funeral. Right? The transaction blows up, 5-minute funeral. You've heard Tom talk about it, it's great, right? 5-minute funeral, go in the car and scream the F-bomb until you lose your voice if you need to. But then you move on. So it's harder. And there are 42% less transactions without any argument in the market. Well, what are we gonna do? Well, a couple of things. Number one is people are gonna leave the business. As a matter of fact, they're already leaving the business. Homey yesterday, the real estate firm out of Salt Lake, probably saw the news, they're laying off how the people and the CEO stepped down because he ain't so smart anymore, is he? He looked really smart when buyers were like, what will you take for the home? Here, right? Everybody looked smart. Everybody looked like a freaking genius. And so now everyone ain't so smart. And Homey's going down, Loan Depot, all these companies are laying people off. It's insane. So the first thing I want you to understand is your ability to survive is your ability to survive. It is fully in your hands. It is yours. It's not Chantry's, it's not Steve's, it's not Guild Corporate. It is fully in your hands. This is one of the things that they'll see this video, but I sometimes struggle, if you're hearing this, Larkin Group, I sometimes struggle with this like, can we have more tools? I'm like, you don't need more tools. You're at the Larkin Group in this gorgeous office with this massive brand. We put on 3 events a year for our clients. I'm marketing twice a month to every person in our database. We have blogs everywhere, a radio show, You have the beautiful CRM. You guys hearing me? Like, you don't need any more tools. Chantry brings you in here at 8 in the morning, and he gives you he's like, here's 17 programs. Here's what you can say. Here's the flyers. Go do it. It's in your hands. Okay, so you guys cool with this? So I'm gonna recap as I go. Number one, it gets harder if you go on and on, but you do get to acknowledge it's harder. Number two, it's in your hands, and which is item number 3 or sub 2A is you don't need any more tools. You don't need more tools. You don't, right? And if something comes along that's really cool, and you go to Chantry and go, hey, I saw this technology that maybe we ought to invest in. Fine, but you don't need any more tools. Okay, so now that you know that it's fully in your hands, here's the cool part about it being fully in your hands. There's a great book called What Is It by Jocko Willink, Extreme Accountability or Extreme Ownership. Jocko's Navy SEAL and he's really serious. He's good. Extreme ownership is really about the fact that when you start to own all the outcomes in your life, good or bad, there's actually a lot of freedom in that, right? Because you start to experience the freedom of reality. Reality is the best place to live, right? The freedom of reality is you own it. And so you go, I walked across River Road and I can't believe it. This guy was on his phone and he hit me. And he shouldn't have. And he was on his phone. That was the irony, right? When he hit you. But you might say, but what was I doing walking across River Road looking at my phone? Right? And it's not saying that he didn't screw up. You're taking the tiny piece of ownership you can have. It's a silly example, but I think it's fair based on this insanity of this intersection. So as you exercise extreme ownership,
I'm going to say it once. You can't go on and on about that intersection.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. People have died. Well, many times have died. So now we're talking that you're in reality. You understand the market's different, and you understand that the market's harder and it's going to require more. So I want to talk about some things that I sent out in the video to the Larkin. Well, they actually haven't seen the video yet because I think we're getting it transcribed. So here are some points. I went in and listened to some phone calls of my team. And it was everything from like, wow, nice job, to, you said that. So I want to just rattle off some things today. So number one is when you're calling and following, I'm going to literally give you nuggets on lead conversion. Number one is this. I heard my team calling and they would call and say this. They'd say, hey Ed, just role play with me for a minute. You're an old lead. Ring, ring. Hey, is this Ed?
Yeah.
Hey Ed, this is Jeremy Larkin with the Larkin Group. I'm a real estate agent in St. George. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Hey Ed, the reason for my call is I saw a while back that you connected to our team and I was calling to see how it was going. Okay. Does anyone see all of the problems in this dialogue? Connected with my team, what's your team? They don't know what that is. Number two, I'm calling to see how it's going. How is what going? So the first thing I want to tell you is as you follow up with leads and you have conversions, you need to be direct. So like this. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, is this Ed?
Yeah.
Hey Ed, Jeremy Larkin here, Larkin Group. We're real estate people in St. George. Hey, I'll be really quick. I'm not gonna let Ed even talk. I hope you're having a good day, man. And he says, what do you say?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, really quick. Look, man, I don't want to take a lot of your time. The reason for my call is I'm a real estate agent, as I mentioned. Several months or years ago, you had been looking, you chatted with our group about purchasing a home in St. George. I was calling to see what happened. Okay. That does not sound brilliant. Guys, that is money, okay? Because what can Ed possibly say when what happened? He can only tell me what happened.
Yeah.
There's no other option. There's no yes or no. He has to tell me what happened. I was very direct. And it's cool. Hey, Ed, how are you? Good. Listen, I don't want to take a lot of your time. So there's several things. Number one is I told him who we were. Number two is I told him, here's the reason for my call. Number three, I said, I don't want to take a lot of your time. Scott, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I'll be really quick. What happens when I say I'll be really quick? Phew. I got some a-hole on the phone. It's a salesperson, right? That was 2, 3. Number 4, whatever it is, Roman numeral, I'm speaking like myself. So I need you to understand that I hear this from my team often. So I talk like this with you, and then I get on the phone like this. Hello, is this Steve? Hi. Does that sound like me? Steve, this is Jeremy Larkin. I'm no longer myself. And here's what's weird. If you go into Starbucks this morning and order a drink, do you act like that? No. But when we got on the phone and we go into some sort of phone voice that doesn't make any sense, right? Number 5 is you were a while back looking to, and you're going to insert, buy a home, sell a home, refinance a home, purchase an investment property, get a, I don't know, freaking buy a Kirby vacuum, whatever you sell. I was calling to find out what happened. So when I call expired listings, which I never did, and now I have to because we don't have enough transactions for the team, so I have to literally go back into the trenches and call some people. I do. There's no choice. I've got to produce more deals for the team. So I haven't sold for a while, real estate, like traditionally. So when I call the expired, I do the same thing. I call ring, Scott answers, we chat. I say, Scott, look, the reason I call, I know you've done the 50th caller today. You had your home on the market. What happened? What happened is such a great question. There's only one answer, is what happened. They can't give you any other answer. Okay, this is number 1. Number 2, let's move ahead. Okay, so that's a lead conversion dialogue that doesn't sound very sexy. Number 2 is they're gonna come back and be like, yeah, we just decided to get out of the market. We're not gonna buy. And this is the mistake we made, and we talked about it last week, didn't we? Oh, okay, so you're out of the market? Yeah, we just wanna be done. Okay, I'll take your name off the list. Click. So people do this. They do. So, especially if the person's forceful on the other end. You're kidding me, Steve. You came off the market. What happened? Notice what I just used again? What happened? Steve says, well, the freaking economy. Well, this is now Steve's given me a second jump off point where I can bail out. And I go, well, you know, the economy is weird. You're not wrong, man. We go into politics about this for a while. What specifically? So this is the word I want you to write down. What specifically? So what specifically is a very, very important language pattern. It sounds like 2 words. It's a language pattern. What specifically got in the way of the economy? What specifically about the economy paused you? And you're gonna find something interesting out at that point. I lost my job, I got a job, I moved across town, interest rates went to 7%. The problem is that you were already assuming they were just gonna say interest rates went to 7%, but you don't really know yet. Stop assuming, right? So he says,
I think that's a hidden lesson there.
right.
Who's afraid to make a phone call because you already assume how the call's gonna go.
Right.
And so you almost validate yourself leading into that. It's like, this dude's gonna tell me to F off, and so you like assume that's gonna happen, so you almost lead the phone call into that, and then you're like,
Say
oh,
that
he did.
while it's ringing.
Yeah, I called though, right?
Yeah, and then we do what in sales training, we do the upswing. Hello, is this Chantry? Do you want to talk? I'm wincing. I'm guarding.
What are your thoughts as we think about the assuming? You go, I assume that I'm going to ask this guy about 4 different really specific ways what happened and see if I can't uncover a solution before I freaking hang up. Right?
Yes.
In your mind.
Uh-huh.
I think it's really easy to be calling leads and be like, they didn't buy, they're not qualified, rates are too high, so I'm going to lead the conversation there. How do you change your...
Well, so there's I have actually a serious answer for that. The first trick that we could back all the way up is when you're calling, you need to remember something. You're actually not calling to get a loan. You're actually not calling to get paid a commission. You're calling to connect with a human being and find out if they have a need that you can solve. And so as altruistic as that sounds, it's true. So if you can start all these phone calls with, I'm going to connect with some humans this morning, and I'm going to find out who out there really needs my help. Because I just fully understand that not everybody's going to need my help. And let's say we're dating, right? I'm single, so it's kind of funny. So not everyone's for me, right? And I'm not for everyone. So you have to understand that this is dating, right? You're calling people, and do you guys, can you see how that nuance will help with your head? Okay, so like you get in the morning, you go, okay, here we go. I got to list 50 numbers. I'm going to dial. I'm going to connect with some people. Someone will be happy to hear from me. Some will be less happy, I'm sure. And someone out there needs this call, and I'm going to find out what their need is.
What is that from, like 7 levels of communication?
Absolutely, it's Michael Mayer, man. Like,
If you have call reluctance, you're probably being selfish.
Yeah, especially if you're not low on deals, which a lot of us are low on deals. So then we're really panicked. Like, oh my gosh, I'll get a freaking commission. My wife's going to tell me to go work at Home Depot and start giving the Home Depot cards out. Right? Like this is imminent. And so that's the big thing. So you have them on the phone, and we're walking through this build-up. So Chant says, well, we'll have 4 or 5 questions for sure. What specifically is the language pattern that's going to get you somewhere? And you say, Steve, it's interesting because I actually am in the market. I actually study homes and prices every day. I feel for you. I might have a silver lining. Can I share? So a great question that's going to cause them to do this. Oh yeah? Is can I share? Can I share is an important language pattern. Can I share is, because what are they going to be like? No, I don't want you to share. If they're talking to you, they're going to be like, well, yeah, what do you have to say? Well, it's weird. And this is sample dialogue. 2 years ago, do you remember what it was like to buy a home? Yeah. Well, interest rates were 2.9%. Yeah, but what was happening to you? Well, I was offering and I was getting beat out. I'm like, did you know that all those cash buyers are gone? What? They're gone. And by the way, guys, they're gone. Like, I'm not seeing these offers. Do you remember how there were like 2 homes for sale? There are 4 to 5 times as many options right now, right? And so now they're leaning in, and I'm actually giving them some value. But look at this continuum. First end of the continuum is I had to say, I'm going to help people. All the way to building up, and now I've earned the ability to have a conversation with them and share some insight. So you need to be prepared to give them some insight. And it could be as simple as, hey, could I share a couple of perspectives that might be surprising to you, right? And like with sellers right now, I'm really working with our team on, hey, Isaac, like I know you don't want to sell your home right now, right? I have a video that's on YouTube you should see that we put out this week. Oh, I don't want to sell now. The market's down. Like, how long do you own your home, Isaac? Make a number up. 4 years. Oh my gosh. Would it boggle your mind to know that your home's worth like 120% more than when you bought it?
Yeah.
And so what I walk a seller through is home values in the state of Utah went up 131% in 10 years across the state. And then they fell 10%. Is that a deal you guys would do? Would you buy homes for 10 years and trade them later for, But the seller heard it was bad, so they don't want to sell. So I say, man, wow, that's really interesting. I've seen some things that might really shock you. Can I share? So can I share is so important, and I say, can I share? And let's go on to the next thing. I heard one of the phone calls with my team, and there was an investment property. Did you want to buy it? I was calling to follow up a while back here in our system, and definitely never say database, ever. Like, Brian Regan says, don't ever guess if a woman's pregnant. What do you do? Okay, it's so good. Don't use the word database. Ed, you were in my database. They're like, I'm a freaking name in your database. Never. So you sometime back, you were visiting with us about buying a home. You're gonna buy a home. You're gonna sell a home. So what happened in this phone call, it was about a 3-minute phone call that should have been an 8-minute phone call. And here's why. Well, we wanted to purchase an investment property in St. George. Cool, what's your price point? It was whatever. All right, well, can I send you some listings? Sure, great, what's your best email address? Okay, and they're like, yeah, if you see any good deals, tell us. Okay, and the phone call ended. It's about 3 minutes total. And here's what should have happened. Investment property. Kristen, tell me more about it. Well, I've had this dream for a while. By the way, what do you do for work? Oh, I work with mortgage. Are you married? Yeah, what does your husband do, just for fun? In real life.
In real life, he watches kids and just handyman work.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Okay, this is great. Whoa, so I'm curious, what would owning an investment property do for you guys?
Would give us I don't know.
Would you feel more secure knowing that you had a property that
Yes.
somebody else is paying for?
Yeah.
See the style. So when someone goes, I wanted to buy a vacation property in St. George. Cool, what's your price point? 800 to $1 million. Cool. Are there any areas you like? We really like the ledges. Cool, I want to send you listings. Vacation property. Wow, tell me more. What are you guys thinking of doing with it? Blah, 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 blah. And where do you live? We live in Kaysville. oh my gosh, so many of our clients, so many of the people that we help do the same thing, notice I just embedded that in, we help people, are buying investment properties. What will you guys do with the property? Are you gonna rent it out or come use it? Well, I think we do both. Yeah, tell me more. Like, Isaac, how often do you come to town? Well, we come every February, President's Weekend, for the soccer tournament for kids. Really? How many kids come? Here's the funny part. That's how you talk to a friend.
Yeah.
But you don't talk that way to a lead.
Yeah.
And you guys see what I'm saying? We're like, crap. Buck fever. I don't hunt, but I'm not opposed to it. You know, I'm searching for an animal for 5 hours. And then the deer is in the camp 20 feet away in the fire, and I'm so excited I miss. And that's buck fever, right? That's what we do. We're like, oh my gosh, she said yes! You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we want to buy a home. Like, could you meet with us tomorrow? You know, like, this is what happens. Calm the hell down and be like, oh, that's excellent news. Tell me, like, in a perfect world, what would your timing be? So this is another thing that I want to give to you. It's one of my favorite lines. If you could, this is the statement. If you could write a script, how would this play out? That is so great. It's going to let them tell a story. Well, what we were thinking is, we'd come down for the marathon, and we'd look around that weekend, and then we're thinking if we could find the right property, we'd be there for Thanksgiving. They're enrolled. And do you guys see that it's actually the same for mortgage? It's the same. You guys realize it's a parallel conversation.
Same.
Yeah. Because you should be asking the same things. Hey, I called, I'm trying to get pre-qualified to see if I can purchase an investment property. Same questions. What are you thinking of doing with it? And they're like, man, we talked with Larkin Group and Guild Mortgage. They're all so warm and they ask good questions, right? So let's go to the last probably key item today within the time we have. You need to understand that it's now going to take more effort to get the job done. So we've talked about conversion. So average lead is converted on the 7th to 8th contact, converted to an action, right? Well, I don't know. I mean, Chantry gave me a list of names. I called them all twice. Well, when did you call him? At 9:02, both mornings. Well, cool. She's a nurse. And she's like checking on a patient at 9:02 every morning. This lady isn't home till 6 p.m. Well, I don't know. So what you'd have to do is say, I'm going to call this woman 7 or 8 times. I think I'm going to do a round of call at 9 in the morning. I think I'm going to do a call round between 12 and 1. I think I'm going to go ahead and do a round at least one evening and maybe a Saturday a month. An evening a week and a Saturday a month. It's going to take more attempts. It's going to take more follow-up. It's going to take more nurturing. And the Chantry is just waiting for me to get to this point. You're going to have to, you ready, Chant? Nurture them and love on them and seduce them and call to them, and you might even fondle a little bit. Okay? All right, that's what we said last week.
Oh.
It was coming. Don't grope though. Fondling, yes. Groping, no. Okay? So there's a difference. Yeah, there's a difference. Groping's so overt. So, all right, it keeps your attention. So what I mean is, guys, it might look like 5 phone calls, a bunch of text messages, an automated drip email plan, a handwritten note, and a bomb video, right? Where Chantry goes, and I told my team yesterday, one of the greatest things in the world, we'll use Scott's phone. I hang up with Steve, he's a lead. The second we hang up, hey Steve, Jeremy Larkin here with the Lark Group. It's so great to talk to you. I wanted you to put a name with a face, wanted you to let me know I'm a real human. I'm really excited to chat with you and you know, your family. I'll send you those listings right now. Stay in touch. That's a 20-second video. That is clinching.
It's a lot faster than a phone call.
Oh my,
More
phone
power.
calls suck. We all know this, which is why we don't like to make phone calls. So what I'd say is that tie-down video at the end is very important for lead conversion. And in the video that I shot yesterday for our team, I said, this is the best. I like how I look on video. I look too fat. I look too old. I look too bald. You know what the problem is when they meet you? You're still fat, skinny, white, and bald. Okay? And the funny part is, I don't look around this table right now and judge you all. You're just like people. They're not thinking that, but you are. Send the damn video. Send the video. Shoot the video. Here I am. Here I am. I'm who I am. When you meet me, I mean, maybe I'll lose 20 pounds by the time you get here in a month, but probably not. So I don't have any pounds to lose, but you guys get my point. This is the process, right? So you're going to have to love on these people for a while. Your pipeline's going to matter now more than ever. Now more than ever. You're gonna have to get way more efficient at your time, which means when you come in, like the old time block has never mattered more than it ever before, right? Like between 9 and 10 a.m. Here's the funny part. The average, we have not done a good job in our office. The average person that calls for 60 minutes lead follow-up and new lead generation per day is so far ahead in our industries of 98%, not 7, 1 hour a day. Would you agree and would you agree?
Yeah,
1 hour.
we've said that.
If
you
hour.
had great prospecting.
Because here's the problem. I went to Mike Ferry's productivity school with the guys at Remax. He said 4 hours a day on a treadmill with Brian Burnett. You guys aren't calling 4 hours a day. Maybe one of you in here is a machine, but it's not happening. That's not real. That is 1 in 300 people, maybe 500, is willing to do that. And we know that because if we look around the market in St. George, there are about 2,000 agents, and there are probably 3 to 5 that would possibly do that in my business, right?
Maybe, might only be 2 or 3.
Maybe 2 or 3. No, we know them. I just named one. Who's Isaac Beast. It's great. So if you did an hour of dedicated lead generation, lead follow-up a day, and an hour of handwritten notes and texts and seduction, you would be, you'd be so far ahead in your life, you just wouldn't believe it. And maybe some of you are already doing it. It's cool. Okay? So, gang. Recap. Okay? The recap is continuum. We're starting with the fact that I have to connect with human beings today to see who has a problem. And if they have a problem, maybe I can help them. And the beauty of that mindset is it takes walls down with the client. So I call Chris and I go, hey, look, I saw your home came off the market. I don't even know you. You don't know me. I'm not even sure if I can help or not. I wanted to see what happened. The second I said I'm not even sure if I can help or not, I actually don't sound unconfident. I actually just took her wall down because I'm in the psychology of service, right? And not stupid service. Yeah, I'd love to spend 8 hours with you and not get paid, but service, right? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is there are myriads of lead conversion techniques like I called because a while back you were looking to blank and I wanted to find out what happened. Okay, what happened? Number 3, you need to go significantly deeper on the phone call. What specifically caused you to, the economy changed. And we're like, oh yeah, I know, okay, bye. What specifically changed? Tell me about how you're gonna use your vacation property. Tell me about how you're gonna use your rental property. You're on the phone with a mortgage applicant and they go, we wanna move. Okay, where do you live now? We live in an apartment. We live in this we're in Jewel Plaza downtown, which is right by my house. Oh, Jewel's really beautiful. What do you not like about it? Well, I mean, the neighbors above us like vacuum their floors 3 in the morning.
Come in, Jackie. This is our underwriting manager.
Hey, Jackie.
From Salt Lake.
They're being lectured, Jeremy Larkin.
Jeremy, nice to meet you.
I'm a lowly realtor. Or if you say this,
Jackie's gonna like this.
I'm a
Come in,
realtor.
Jackie.
Realtor. Come on in.
We got you through it.
So, no, you're cool.
Known you guys
Yeah.
were starting early. I would
So,
have.
no, you're great. Right, like, what do you not like about Jewel? See how they're playing into the emotions? Well, the neighbors vacuum their home at 3 in the morning. Amongst other things, at 3 in the morning, you're like, oh man, apartment living, I remember that. What would living in a home be like for your family? What would it be like?
We've talked about this. The one thing I'm gonna bring it up in our office meeting again a little bit, is I want everyone on our team throughout the entire process know that one emotional touch point. We need a yard for our 2 kids. Oh, what are your kids? 2 boys. We need a yard for our 2 boys, so we're looking to buy a house. Sound familiar, Ed? We need a bigger yard for my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old to buy a house. If everybody that ever touched that borrower knew that reason, do you think that the service level would be better? If the LP1 team goes, I am so stoked you chatted with Ed. This is somebody helping pre-approval.
Yep.
It looks like you guys are trying to get a backyard for your 2 boys. Oh my gosh, I have 2 boys. That's so cool. I can't wait to help get you pre-approved and into that house. Here's the stuff I need from you. Is that way different than just going, hey, talk to Ed, we're gonna get you pre-approved. Sounds good, bye, right?
So
Difference,
transactional.
huge. Processing gets it. Oh my gosh, you're under contract. I'm so...
What are your kids' names?
Yeah.
Right?
You have 2 boys, oh my gosh, how old are they? I have 2 boys. Or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Their whole transaction is gonna be so much better.
So different.
And they know we're in the business of making money when we get them alone. But how does it make them feel if every person is freaking excited to help them? They're like, this is the best decision I've ever made. It doesn't matter about the numbers anymore. I don't
Well, the
think.
coolest thing that we get in our team is the Google review that's not about the salesperson. I'm loving it. They're like, the Larkin, their whole team. When they say their whole team, I'm like, oh, we nailed it.
Yeah.
Because they often say Michelle's the best or Jessica's the best or Jesse's the best. Steve, you're going to say something?
When you're trying to break down the wall, one thing that I learned a long time ago is you're asking them an open-end question. What happened?
Yeah.
That's an open-end question. Until you break down their wall, you're gonna have resistance, and they may not really respond to your open-end question. Then you can ask them a closed-end question, which is yes or no, and then another open-end question.
And then starting asking them about finances and crap is way easier once you've warmed them up.
Yeah.
See why, guys, here's the funny part. Do you see why I use the seduction joke? I've talked about this for decades. This is not a new joke for me. It's a date, right? I mean, it's like we say seduction, but if you think about what seduction means, it's to kind of warm somebody
I can't
up.
think about that.
Yeah, I know. Look, I realize that some of you need to go shower off right now and like cold shower, but it's right. It's to like warm this relationship up. Yes. So we're going through our continuum. Now we're asking way better questions when we're on the phone. We're going way deeper. Now we're all talking about the two kids, and then at that point, let's take it over to, we're gonna have to call more, we're gonna have to text more, we're gonna have to love more, we're gonna have to handwritten note more, we're gonna have to send, we should be sending a video after conversations. We have all of our teams send video now, including our operations staff. We didn't used to do that. And the operations ladies are like, we're SC personalities, we don't send videos. I'm like, you bet your butt you do. You know, and they do. And they're quite great, like Taylor. who's
Once
like-
they know they have to do it, that C will do it every time.
Yeah, let me tell you something we're going to be doing right now in our organization. They don't even know this yet. We seriously, like, transactions are way down. And I said, we have two options. We lay people off because suddenly when you don't have as many transactions, the operational side of it is like, do we need all these people? Or, and what we're going to do is we're going to have our listing of transaction coordinators start doing, I think we're going to have them do 10 voice-to-voice pure loving calls per week on past clients, alphabetically. And each of them get 10 a week. Your job this week is to call these 10 and go, hey, it's Taylor with the Larkin Group. I'm literally calling to say, hey, we are so grateful for you guys. Jeremy asked me to call, and we're calling to connect with some clients this week. How's the home treating you? And do you see what we're doing? Everyone has to make money for the firm. Everyone has to make money, right? Or their liability. So the last thing I want to say is,
how much cooler would that call be, just to go back on my point one more time, if the processor called them
Yeah.
and said, we helped you close 6 months ago. It was awesome to help you. House to house. Is the yard exactly what the two boys needed? Right?
yeah, and by the way, you want to know Tom Ferry's video that was Instagram this morning? How's he been on Instagram this morning? I'm deluded, second demented. He said, I want you to call everyone that bought a home in the last 2 years and ask how the home's working for them. There's a survey that came out. Have you guys heard the survey?
Yeah,
Like
that's what I was
80% of
just gonna
buyers
say.
felt like they got screwed.
Yep, and they don't like the house.
And they don't like the house. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is that? Let's talk about that really fast. What do you guys think?
They had to rush,
Yeah.
they had to
They
settle.
had no options. A lot of settling.
Do you think they got the first
They got
house
the
they
one
wanted?
offer, except for finally that only
got
had
the
to go
same house.
Guys, it's
10,000
what
above
Christy
asking
feels
price.
like when she wakes up to Chantry every morning. She's like,
What did I
I
do?
freaking settled! Why?
I must have been really drunk.
Yeah, that was, you were an easy target. They fully settled.
Yeah.
And buyers are even worse. You're like, I overpaid by a ton. Here's why, because I explained this to my team. Here's where values were, and then there was this chunk on top, the cream, that was mania. It wasn't actually ever even valued. Mania. Like what percentage was mania? 10%, I
I
think.
would say so.
So the last thing I'll say is we go back to the Covey quote. Everything gets harder when you go on and on about it being harder. Instead go, let me use the best example possible, is working out. And it would specifically be a hard event like a marathon that happened Saturday, and everyone here at some point has done something. And for you, it could have been a 5K, like literally a 5K fun run, and you don't run, and you knew like it was going to hurt you to do that. Or it might have been a marathon, it might have been a Tough Mudder. For me, I've done some like insane mountain bike races where There was one in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, where I was out for like 7.5 hours on a mountain bike. And mountain biking is not being on the road. This is like over hill and dale and all that stuff. And the problem was the course was 27 miles, 54 miles, it's 27 miles twice. And what I hated is when I came through the middle, it messed with your head because you were like, maybe I don't want to go back.
I gotta do that again.
Yeah, and it was like 8,000 feet of climbing. But here's what's funny. What did I think going into the race? That it would be hard. That's how I approached it. It didn't. That's not negative. That's actually how I survived it. I was like, this is gonna suck. And by the way, it fully sucked. And the second I was done, you know the elation. Oh my gosh. It was like the second it's done, you're like, can we do it again? And in the middle, you're like, I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm selling my bike. You know, I mean, these are all the things. I've done the marathon once. So can you see the difference between going on and just saying, yeah, this is harder. This is different now. You need to understand it's harder. It's different now. This is what Tom Ferry calls it. There's the old market, there's the new market. This is the new market. Okay? Questions?
It was amazing.
Helpful?
This is the most important person at Guild to us right there, Jeremy. I don't think you know who you just met.
Where do you live at?
That's not true. It's all of these people.
Yeah.
I'm in Salt Lake.
It's Steve.
Yeah.
She's the one that makes the hard deals happen.
Cool. Yeah, awesome.
Well, my
And
team
they're all
does.
hard deals.
Yeah, same. Honestly, you know what's so fun is having my team. I
Yeah.
love giving.
Right.
I don't mean this to sound like I'm a cool leader. I love giving the team credit. My favorite thing to say is I got surrounded by people who were awesome.
Exactly.
And you know the funny thing about this? I'm not surrounded by people who are smarter than me. And I know that sounds kind of funny. I'm probably not. Well, what are you saying? They're not smarter than you? Like, what's wrong with you? You're arrogant? No, it's not about being surrounded by people smarter than you. It's being surrounded by people who are better than you in all of the ways that they're better than you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I may or may not be the smartest guy in the room, but I'll tell you what, I'm not the hardest worker. I'm not the most empathetic. I'm not the best at lead follow-up at all. I'm not the best at time management, any of it. So, does this make sense? It's not about being smarter. It's not about being prettier or whatever. It's like you need to be surrounded with good people, better people than you in lots of ways. Okay. All right, I'm out.